Hello student, today we are going to study the Adiantum. Adiantum species. Adiantum is basically a fern. The classification of Adiantum is as showed in your screen. So the division of Adiantum is the Phenicophyta. Class is Leptosporangiopsida. Order is the Felicales. Family is the Polypodiaceae. And the genera is the Adiantum. So the Adiantum is a very common fungus, a common fern species in the region of the Punjab and hilly tracts of the Pakistan. So Adiantum is a widespread fern. It grows in the mild climate. Mostly it prefer to the shady moist places. Sometimes they are found on some rocky places, on the walls where moisture is present. So the Adiantum species is common in plains as well as in the hills. Sometimes these Adiantum species are also grown for their ornamental purposes. The Adiantum is also known as the maidenhair trees, maidenhair fern, the maidenhair fern or the walking fern. So the Adiantum, due to the presence of their shiny, smooth, blackish hair-like petioles, actually the rachis of the Adiantum, that's why they looks like hair-like, blackish hair-like shiny structures, and due to the delicate drooping fern with distinctive fan leaf or fan-like leaves. Actually, in the clusters, they are shown as the black hair-like structures or the fine long structures. That's why it is known as maiden hair tree fern. Maiden hair tree is the Ginkgo biloba. Maiden hair fern is the Adiantum. The species of the Adiantums are vary in their vegetative structures. Mainly, the main vegetative body is the sporophyte, as in other pteridophytes. So the main body of the Adiantum is the sporophytic in nature. And it is differentiated into root, leaves, and rachis, sometimes also known as the stem. Basically, the leaves or the arrangement of the leaves are differ from species to species. So the pictures which shown on your screen, there are two different species of Adiantum, and both species have different type of different shape of leaves and the different type of arrangements of the leaves. So there in the first figure there are three pictures of the sporophyte, and all these three pictures are vary from each other on their leaf structures, their arrangements of leaves. There are three different species: Adiantum, Catullus veneris, Adiantum jordani, Adiantum electum. So all these species have almost the different type of structures, and in their different shapes of the leaves. The root is the root portion denoted by rhizomes. On the basis of their morphology, basically two major structures in the Adiantum sporophyte. First one is the rhizome, second is the leaves. Although on the basis of their structure, they are differentiated into stem, leaves, and the roots. The basic structures basis differentiation of this sporophyte is the rhizomes, leaves, and the rachis or the petiole. First one is the rhizome. Rhizome is the part of stem which is underground in creeping form, that is known as the rhizome. This is the rhizome. When the stem is underground in form of creeping over or under the soil surface, it is known as rhizome. The rhizome grows very near to the surface of the soil. Sometimes it is just over the surface, sometimes it just bend the upper surface of the soil. And the rhizome is covered with numerous scale-like structures called palea. The rhizome has a sheath or looks like covering of many scales over the rhizome. And these structures are known as palea. And basically the rhizome attain a height of 1 to 6 inches. This is the rhizome. And these rhizomes are developed from a single apical cell that cut off derivatives that develop into various cells of the root tissue. So this is the structure of the rhizomes, and rhizome is a underground part. Basically, it's extension of a stem in creeping form, and it is covered by scale-like structure or sheath-like structure that is known as palea. Sometimes the older parts of the rhizomes bear numerous bases of the old leaves. These are, and the rhizome develop numerous branched adventitious roots. These are the fine structures, hair-like structures over the rhizome or at the rhizome in form of adventitious manner, and these are known as roots. So next is the leaf. The leaves of the Adiantum are bipinnately compound leaves. And the main axis of the leaves is known as the rachis. And the leaves are large, about 4 to 6 inches in length, as shown is the figure. And they are bipinnately compound. The main axis of the leaf is called the rachis. Main axis of the leaf is known as rachis, and the leaflet of the first order is called pinna. These are the pinna. Leaflet of the first order are called pinna, and the leaflet of the second order are known as pinnules. These are the pinnules, and first order leaf is known as pinna. And they are green in colors, they are triangular in shape, or sometimes they are wing-like structures. It has broader end toward the apex region. So these are the characters of the leaf, and main character of the leaves, that is the adiatum or the fund. Adiatum has large bipinnately compound leaves which are attached to the main axis of the leaf, that is known as rachis. And the first order leaves are known as pinna, and second or and the leaflets of the second order are called pinnules. And the each leaflet has broader end toward the apex. And the leaves are wing-like structures, and due to this region, the apical region of the leaves or the apical lobe of the leaves has broader region, and the broader end divided into 3 to 4 loops. And the marginal region or the broader region or the apical region, which is broader in shape or the size, that is divided into 3 to 4 loops. These are try to these are 3 to 4 looped structures, and these loops are reflex back, and underside of these leaves sporangia are present. In case of Adiatum, mixed sori has been observed. It means the mixed type of sporangia has been observed in Adiatum. And the young leaves are coiled inward in the embryonic state. It is called the urinate venation. Sometimes the young leaves are in form of rolled structures, which are arises from the rhizome. So this is the structure of the sporophyte of Adiantum. Now the anatomy of the sporophyte. First is the anatomy of rhizome. The rhizome is differentiated into basically 3 regions. First one is the epidermis, second is the cortical region, and third one is the stellar organization. These stellar regions. It has single layer, outermost layer of the thin walled and sometimes thick walled cells in the older age of the adiatum. The epidermis is a single layered structure which is covered with the help of thin layer of the cuticle. And on the epidermis, hair-like structures are originated from the epidermis. Then the epidermal region, there is a cortical region. And the cortical region is a broader region. Major part of the anatomy of the rhizome has cortical region. This cortical region is made up of parenchymatous cells and the cortical regions are compactly arranged without any intercellular spaces. Sometimes in some species, there is a distinct layer of the sclerogametal cells bend the epidermis. This is known as this is called hypodermis. In some species, the hypodermal region or the hypodermis is also present just when the epidermis, which is made up of sclerogametal cells. So, the cortical region is made up of either mostly from the parenchymal cells without any intercellular spaces. Sometimes the cortical region is divided into two regions, hypodermis, outer cortex, and the inner cortex. Outer cortex is made up of sclerogametal cells, while the inner cortical region is made up of parenchymal cells. When the cortical region, there is stellar organization. In the figures on your screen, you can see there are two types of stellar organizations in the rhizomes of two different species. First figure, that is A, is denoted is to the TS of the rhizome of Adiantum rubellum, while the second picture or the second figure, that is B, is denoted to the other species of the Adiantum, that is the Adiantum capillus veneris. In both, the species has different type of stellar organization. In first figure, in figure A, the stellar organization is Siphonal stele. The type of stele is the Siphonal stele, while in the second picture, figure B, the stele is dictyotype, dictyo stele. In this in the Adiantum capillus veneris, dictyostele type of stellar organization takes place. Basically, in the stellar organization, in Adiantum, sometimes Siphonostele, solanostele, as well as dictyostele has been found in the transverse section of the rhizomes. In the stellar organization of Adiantum, the stele is covered with a single layer structure that is known as endodermis. When the cortical region, a single layer of the endodermis has been observed. When the endodermis, there is a stellar organization or the arrangements of xylem and phloem takes place. And pith is present in the transverse section of the rhizome of Adiantum. Sometimes, as you see in figure A, there are inner as well as outer endodermis, outer pericycle as well as inner pericycles, and in between the outer and inner endodermis and pericycle, there is a layer of xylem and phloem. Xylem is megarge in their development and composed chiefly by the arrangements of elongated tracheids. Xylem is megarge in the development, and the mesoid type of xylem is composed chiefly by elongated tracheids. And the pit closing membranes of the end walls of the trachea dissolve at maturity of the cells, resulting in the direct continuity between the adjacent the tracheid elements. And these elements are referred to as the primary vessels, while the phloem is composed of the sieve elements. They are elongated and have numerous sieve in their vertical cells. And in the rhizome, companion cells are absent. So the stellar organization, pericycle as well as endodermis is present in cephalostele, both outside and inside the outer pericycle, outer endodermis, and the inner pericycle, inner endodermis has been observed. On the both sides of the xylem, there is outer phloem as well as inner phloem. In Adiantum, rubellum has been observed. While in the second or the other species of the Adiantum, that is the Adiantum Capillus veneris, the steels are arranged in form a circle within the cortical region. This is the type of dictyosteels. Each steel has its own endodermis, its own pericycles, and xylem and phloem. And they are arranged in form of circle within the cortical region. In the Adiantum Capillus veneris, a two-layer hypodermis that is made up of scalenochymatous cells with thick walls and without any intercellular spaces has been found. So, in the dictyosteels, the xylem is divided into protoxylem and the metaxylem. So, this is all about the anatomy of the rhizome of Adiantum. Next is the anatomy of the petiole. The transverse section of the petiole is almost circular in outline, and it is the outermost layer is known as epidermis, that is single layer epidermis, which is covered with a thin layer of the cuticle cells. Then the epidermis region, there is a broad region of the cortical tissue. Here the cortical tissue is subdivided into two distinct layers. The outer layer are thick walled structure without any intercellular spaces. This is known as the hypodermis. So when the epidermis, there is one to many layer hypodermal region that is made up of scalenochymatous cells. And when the hypodermal region, there is a broad region of the parenchymatous cells, which is known as cortex or the inner cortex. This is the inner cortex made up of parenchymatous cells with intercellular spaces and thin cell. So in petiole, the cortical region clearly distinct into hypodermal regions and the parenchymatous or the inner cortical region. The petiole is connected to the stem steels by means of one or more tracts, and these one or more traces, and the rachis given rise branches that enters the pinnage and the penetrals. So the sterile region is divided or the branch from the rachis region in one or more, in form of one or more traces. So in the anatomy of the petioles, then the cortical region, there is a single layer endodermis. When the endodermis single layer pericycle is present, pith is absent in the petiole or the transverse section of the petioles. The vascular tissue in radiating form. In center, xylem is present, which is surrounded by the phloem. The xylem is dispersed or invaginate in the phloem in form of rays. So the xylem is divided into metaxylem and the protoxylem. So this is all about the transverse section of the petiole. So this is all about for today. In the next class, we discuss the anatomy of the root and the life cycle of the adiantum.